Former campaign chair for President Trump's 2016 campaign, the run for the White House, instrumental, Paul Manafort. Understanding what's going to happen with Ukraine and Russia, Paul Manafort, instrumental. He understands the politics on both sides. Perfect guest for these two topics tonight. Paul, thank you for joining us. Appreciate having you. I guess I'm kind of romanticizing believing that anything can be better than what we're seeing right now. As you heard me say, and as I'm sure you could assume, I'm not looking to destroy anybody over what happened with this. Thank God it was nothing communicated that got into the hands of an enemy and somebody could be hurt with it. But isn't this what's wrong with our politics, what we're seeing right now? Walls blaming a reporter for getting on the thread?
Look, you got to pull back a minute and just take a look at this whole thing. Yes, you're right about the hypocrisy of the political parties and how, depending on who's in power, the positions are this, they just flip. You're right. But this Trump administration has been the most transparent presidency, frankly, in the last 25, 30 years. I mean, the reporters are getting bored with seeing Trump as much as they have and him taking all the questions. And he didn't duck it today either. He said this was wrong. We're going to figure it out. He's given a responsibility to Walz, whose job it is to figure that out. I mean, the fact that how Godfrey got on the call, no one knows yet. They'll figure that out. What's in my mind the question is, why did he, being on the call, feel compelled to do what he did? Because frankly, reporters are embedded on secret missions all the time. They see them and they respect what's in the U.S. interest. Godfrey didn't. That's, I think, what has gotten the ire of some of the Trump people. But irrespective of that, that's really not the point. The point is, look at the policy. The policy was successful. The waterway's now open. The passage is safe. The Houthis were killed who were important to the Houthi mission. Infrastructure was taken out. That's what's gotten lost in this. I mean, what the Democrats should be attacking, if they want, is the policy. This was a mistake. This was not something that happened by
Paul,
design.
Listen, I believe it was a mistake. I believe it was a mistake. I believe it was a mistake. But it was a mistake they set themselves up for by not knowing how to control their comms, right? Because they were on an app that they shouldn't have been talking about this kind of stuff. And somehow the guy got on it. And look, let's be honest. You find me a reporter. I've been on embedded missions, okay, in war zones, okay, multiple times. I get that. That's not what this is. This is a guy who's a political reporter that got given privy information 2 hours before an attack. He didn't go with it when he first learned about it. He waited. So if anything, you got to give him a nod. Now, I don't know Goldberg, and I don't know why they're so anxious to destroy him. But, Paul, the policy, I'm with you. You can have your feelings about that. I'm not disputing it. I'm disputing that that's all it's about. They're attacking the reporter, and they're making it sound like they did nothing wrong here. And I think it's a big root of the problem, Paul, and I don't believe you would do that if you were in control. I don't think you'd handle this way. Well, am I wrong?
Well, Chris, I think they did acknowledge that something was wrong. I mean, the president said this shouldn't have happened. And Walz has been. Well, no, he's not blaming the reporter for him being on the call. That's what he wants to find out is who. And he said it in front of the whole world. Today, he said he wants to get to why this happened, how this happened, and he's tasked the man whose responsibility it is to figure that out. So, I mean, Trump is not hiding. I mean, look at, I don't want to get into the old game. I mean, how different is this from Benghazi, for example? That was hidden away, and we lost 4 Americans in that. That was a tragedy. This was a successful policy. The president has taken responsibility for the mistake of somebody being on who shouldn't have been on, and he's tasked it. So, I mean, look, the Democrats are attacking, and you know this very well. You said it sort of a little while ago. They're attacking because they don't have any standing on issues that they can attack Trump on in their mind. They're confused. They don't know what to stand for. Should they appease the left? Should they appease the center of the Democratic Party? They're confused. And as a result, and the other thing they're confused about is Trump, and they're confused about Trump's policies are making his numbers go up. And why has that happened? Because he was elected on those policies, and he's implementing those policies, and the American people recognize that. So when you see 75% approving of his border closing, or you see over 70% on the deportation of criminals, I mean, the Democrats have a problem attacking that is the wrong thing. They lost an election by attacking that. And so what they do, they go to
I agree on
process.
that.
They attack something. But Trump today said, we got to figure this out. It shouldn't have happened. And mistakes happen in government. You know that. The key is what you do about the mistakes. And in my mind, the president today, in front of the world on camera, said, we're going to figure this out. And he tasked it to
I know, but he's making it sound,
I don't
Paul,
think he was
they're
playing
making it sound
game.
like somebody may have done this to them. He's making it sound, and Walz is making it sound like somebody did this to them. It's not what it is. They're not victims in this situation. And you're right. Democrats created a great opportunity for Trump with how they ignored the border. And I believe in process. I believe in due process. I don't think that that's a mistake. I think how Trump is handling the removals is worthy of scrutiny, and I think the idea that you attack the courts for reviewing an executive order is kind of nonsense. And Republicans have been a part of going after presidential executive orders for Democrats many times over, and this is no different than that. But I hear your point about focusing on policy, so let's do that. Ukraine and Russia. What do you make of what we're hearing about this tentative marine peace deal? Explain to me what you think is happening and what's likely to come of it.
Look, there are several issues involved in getting a temporary ceasefire that will lead to negotiations for a permanent ceasefire. One of them is open seas of the Black Sea, to be able to safely transport oil, to transport agriculture. That we had that agreement, it broke down, it's now back in place, and today they announced that both Ukraine and Russia have agreed to have the waterways of the Black Sea be safe and not be under attack. So that's a major step. I mean, this ceasefire is not going to happen in one gulp. They're pieces, and each piece begins to create more stability. But the point is, what we're discussing here is how to bring about a peace, not how to expand a war, and that's a big deal. And what's gotten lost in the Ukraine-Russia issue, frankly, is what's the underpinning of the foreign policy that Trump is trying to accomplish here. One, he wants to bring an end to the war. He said that. Two, he thinks the bloodshed is terrible. Three, he said it's important for the United States to break the bond between China and Russia. And he can't do that if we're fighting Russia. And so this is a means to an end. It's not an end by itself, although it's an end to the war. It's part of a strategy that's much bigger than Ukraine, and it's part of how do we isolate China. And to Trump, that's worth stopping the fighting, ending the killing, and beginning to break up that relationship is worth what he's putting into it. And frankly, the success so far has been pretty astounding. I mean, we're 2 months into his administration, and we've got a partial ceasefire, and we have a framework of a peace deal in Ukraine, and that is very significant. And nobody else could have done that. I mean, that's what's important here. No one else could get where we are today here except for Trump. And why is that? Because he focuses on what has to be done, not on ideological foreign policy history, and keeping the enemies of the Cold War in a freezer. He knows to get peace, you got to deal with Putin. To deal with Putin, you got to talk to him. To attack Putin is not necessarily going to get you to sit down with Putin. And so this process has worked very well. Today's Black Sea announcement is very significant. I think you're going to see very quickly the infrastructure and the energy infrastructure, some of the key mining areas are going to become safe zones again. And we're going to be able to then focus on some of the parameters of a deal, which are the territory, which are, what kind of security guarantees are going to happen. Now, Putin is not rolling over for Trump, and Trump is not rolling over for Putin.
Nope.
But Trump has a process he's following. He's got a process, and that process has gotten us to further than it's gotten in anybody in the last 4 years, actually 6 years, because you can go back to Crimea, and it's gotten a good start of people talking to each other who can resolve this conflict.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.